leading Wo Hop To lieutenants. To do that, he needs a loyal personal army. Chow recruits from the schools of San Francisco, offering the kids shelter in safe houses across the city, where they have free access to drugs, alcohol, and prostitutes. To a rebellious teen, it's the perfect hangout.
The older adults would drop off food, money, whatever we need. That was a place to hang out most of the time.
The introduction of safe houses breaks new ground in American gang culture.
The difference between the Crips and the Bloods and, the other traditional gangs throughout the United States. You gangbang, then you go home and live with your mom and dad or your family, right? Here, in Asian gangs, you join a gang like the Hop Sing Tong or the Wo Hop To, you're gone. You're living with them.
The gang, they put this perfect picture out for you guys. We'll take care of you. We'll always got your back or your family.
Chow uses his gang network for drug distribution. The safe houses keep the kids off the street and out of sight of law enforcement. Younger Hop Sing members quickly recruit their friends until Chow has an army of juvenile gangsters, allied to the Wo Hop To and ready for action.
I had at least between 8 to 12 safe houses. Each house had about 30 to 40 kids live there, young men, and they're just waiting for, the situation popped up.
The Hop Sing boys commit a string of street-level crimes to support their lifestyle of alcohol, drugs, and sex.
We did home invasion. We'll rob illegal casinos. We'll do arsons on stores or houses.
Chow's growing street force is now an obvious threat to the Wah Ching. A resentful Danny Wong turns on his old rival and breaks the negotiated truce. Chow thinks he controls the streets, but on a stroll through Chinatown with Peter Chong, they suddenly run into trouble.
Broad daylight, late afternoon, they were ringed by a group of Wah Ching gang members fully armed, and they were about to get killed. The only thing that stopped them from being killed is the police drove right up on it, and the gang dispersed.
April 19th, 1991. Danny Wong meets a number of his Wah Ching gang members. It's payday, and Danny Wong collects $25,000 in cash.
Danny's routine was that he would gather his men in the early morning, and they would get a bite to eat before dispersing in Chinatown somewhere.
Wong waits for them to finish their meal.
Somebody gained a key to the front door, and they were able to lock the front door and stop Danny's men from responding to whatever was going to happen outside. Somebody opened fire on Danny as he sat in the car and killed him.
The money is found on Wong's dead body. This is not a robbery, but an execution. It's yet another unsolved Chinatown homicide.
With Danny Wong's murder and with this circle of violence continuing, the families were crying out for something to be done, people to be put in jail. City fathers were asking for a cessation in violence, and they were all looking to the cops.
The police turn their attention to Danny Wong's nemesis, Raymond Chow. At Danny Wong's funeral, the FBI keeps a close eye on proceedings, watching for clues about the shooting.
The funeral was one of the largest ones in Chinatown history. And sure enough, Raymond's driving Peter Chong's Jaguar. They show up, and they go in, they're given a position of honor. They're there to show that they didn't do it, and that they're part of the community, and they mourn the loss of Danny Pai Wong.
But the feds don't believe it. To them, it means just one thing. The Wo Hop To's takeover of San Francisco is nearly complete. September 1991. In San Francisco, Wo Hop To's chief enforcer Raymond Shrimp Boy Chow expands his base of operation. As he sets his sights further afield, the young Hop Sing boys start to draw heat from law enforcement. Over in Oakland, police arrest a number of gang members after a series of extortion attempts on local shops and businesses.
Large group of mostly Chinese youth, going around Oakland, Chinatown, looking for the owners of businesses down there and telling them that they're hopsing and they're collecting protection money.
But it's impossible to get the victims to come forward and testify.
The threat was real. They're so scared. Making identification and testifying in court was something that no one was willing to do.
The Oakland police can't bring a case without witnesses. They need more evidence and place the Hop Sing gang members under surveillance. Working together with the FBI and the San Francisco police, they soon traced the gang back to a rented safe house on 47th Avenue in San Francisco's Sunset District.
The house on 47th Avenue became a focus of ours. Regular residential area. It was more or less an area where you wouldn't think that a gang hideout would be planted.
A background check on the rented house reveals the owner is none other than Peter Chong. The police obtain a warrant to search the property.
We went into the house and we had identified home invasion, robbery paraphernalias, masks, machetes, ropes, duct tape. Also, we have recovered bulletproof vests, one with Peter Chong's name on it.
But that's not all. The search team finds evidence supporting their suspicion that Chow's gang has been dealing drugs.
Piece of luggage empty, but it was locked. We had the drug detection dog came in, and he hit on that right away. Although it was empty, it's obviously at some point there's some drugs placed in that luggage.
There's no direct evidence that Peter Chong is involved with the gangs. But after the police raid, Chong's property is a liability.
That was Peter's house. He realized that that is time, too many people know about his house. He needs to change that house.
Chong orders one of Chow's leading soldiers, Chol Soo Lee, to burn the house down.
Peter had promised So Chow Lee, to $30,000 for that.
September 21st, 1991. Chol Soo Lee and an accomplice make their move. But Chol Soo Lee forgets to switch off the pilot light. It causes an explosion that prematurely sets the house ablaze.
Now that we see the phone call, the house got bombed, and they all lit up on fire.
Chol Soo Lee suffers burns on 90% of his body.
The medical technicians at SFGA said that the flesh was dripping off of his bones, and they were surprised that he lived.
I have people drive me back right away, and what we call the damage control.
But the damage is done. 3 months later, Lee wakes up from his coma to find he's in big trouble with the cops. Disabled, penniless, and alone, Lee has no option but to cooperate with the feds. San Francisco, December 1991. The Wo Hop To triad now dominates San Francisco's Asian underworld. The FBI targets the suspected ringleader Peter Chong and his enforcer Raymond Chow. The Fed's primary concern, that the triads are moving beyond San Francisco's borders.
I think the Wo Hop To's overall ambition here was to gain a network to spread their influence out the United States.
Injured arsonist Chol Soo Lee agrees to testify that Chong ordered the destruction of the gang safe house. FBI investigators could immediately arrest both Chong and Chow, but they want more. In an effort to uncover a wider conspiracy by the Wo Hop To, the FBI applies to the courts for a wiretap. But the high-profile shootings in Chinatown have also sparked interest from the political establishment. While the FBI wiretap is awaiting approval, incredibly, Peter Chong and Raymond Chow are called to testify at a series of